You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. And we're back. It's Dr. J here with Evan Brand. My man, how we doing today?
Hey, happy Monday. If you're watching in the future, I guess the day doesn't matter, but for us it does.
I had a great weekend, man. I was doing a little water skiing action today. It was phenomenal. Or actually yesterday, I'm sorry. Great day, and back in the saddle for an awesome Monday. Got some patients coming up right after our live podcast. How about yourself, man? Anything good happening for you?
Actually, yeah, I'm going to create a pretty cool piece of content. As soon as you and I get off the call together, I'm going to go eat some lunch, and I'm going to drive about an hour away to a local hemp farm where there's a guy who has a Kentucky hemp oil company that I've been seeing his products everywhere. His son was having a major seizure disorder. His son was having hundreds of seizures within a week period. And he started to use cannabis extracts to help his son. And now his son has not had seizures for years, several years. And so this guy, he moved from Northern California where he was growing medical cannabis, and now he's just growing hemp in Kentucky. And so I'm driving to the farm. I'll probably end up doing a podcast with him because I don't think it's going to be easy to do it in the field. But I'm going to try to take my camera and put maybe a 4 or 5 minute little video together, try to interview him, get a little bit of his story, and share his products because I've been using this CBD with my clients. And as you and I talk about with inflammation and the anti-anxiety benefits, you can pretty much use it with anyone, and it's going to help regardless of the case, whether it's like Lyme or Hashimoto's or H. pylori, whatever we're dealing with our clients. I mean, we can pretty much use CBD across the board, and we might notice some beneficial changes, and it's definitely not going to hurt somebody. So I'm looking forward to going to meet that guy, and stay tuned because I'll have a video probably in the next week that's going to be published on it.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, I think CBD has some really good benefits. I use it on a handful of patients for pain issues, for sleep issues, for anxiety, just for immune balancing. I do find it's very good. CBD or cannabidiol is the non-psychoactive component of marijuana or hemp or cannabis, if you will. THC, tetrahydrocannabis, that's going to be the part of the marijuana that gets you high and kind of gives you the munchies. So you get some of those benefits with the CBD without the high or the munchies afterwards. And I've seen it work very well with seizures, like you mentioned, very well with autoimmune and pain stuff. I think it can be very therapeutic. I don't think it fixes the root cause, but I do think it's very, very therapeutic. It can help.
Right. Well said. Yeah, definitely not going to fix the root cause. But I've had some people, too, that are in California, other states where they can even get recreational cannabis. And I tell people go for it if they ask me, because if they're doing a tincture or they're doing a spray or a sublingual, they're not having to smoke. They're not having to use a vaporizer if they just don't want to get the high. There's tons of different options where you can do a high CBD and a very tiny amount of THC where people can help fix their sleep. I had a lady in California. She's had chronic pain. She's had Lyme forever. She said if she does CBD by itself, does pretty much nothing. But when she adds just like a milligram, so she'll do say 10 to 50 milligram CBD, 1 milligram THC, all of a sudden the synergistic effect happens and the pain goes away.
Yeah, I think it can be very helpful. It's a good tool in your functional medicine pocket, so to speak.
Yep. Hey, Robert, thanks for joining us. James, thanks for joining us. Our topic, well, we figured we'll do a Q&A, but our topic initially is about foundational nutrients, kind of what's the things that are actually worth your time and money, because Justin and I work with so many people that come to us after they've been to other functional medicine practitioners, and we've got to kind of clean up the mess. And there's like 20 or 30 or 40 supplements that people are taking, and we like to try to whittle that down to just some of the foundations. And some things people are taking might help and can't hurt. But if you're spending $1,000 or something crazy a month on supplements, we really want to give you the stuff that's just going to move the needle. Because why take something if it's not going to do stuff for you?
100%. And again, kind of foundation before we go in is a paleo template to start. And again, that's macronutrient agnostic. It could be high carb, low carb, high fat, high protein, moderate protein, right? So we're just focusing on the anti-inflammatory, nutrient dense, low toxin foods. That's number one. Yep. And then from there, the next step above that is making sure we have the lifestyle stressors in order: sleep, hydration, not eating when we're really stressed. That's number two. And then number three is actually making sure we can digest the foods that we eat. If we eat a really good diet, but we can't break it down, that's the equivalent of going to the grocery store and leaving that food out on the counter and not putting it in the fridge for a week or two. It's going to rot. So the next step above that is HCl and enzymes and digestive nutrients so we can break those really good foods down. That's our foundation. And once we have that, that's where I think some of the nutrients come in. So with my patients, all of them, they're all on like either the multi-nutrient supreme or a multi-support pack, which has the extra kind of stress handling nutrients that are going to be in there, which are going to consist of high quality B vitamins that are methylated or activated, like P5P, of course, like your B1, your B2, right? Thiamine, riboflavin, right? These are all in niacin. These are all important nutrients. Of course, activated L-MTHF folate, of course, methylated B12 or some kind of other adenylyl or hydroxy B12, chelated minerals like calcium and magnesium and zinc and selenium, right? All chelated, meaning they're bound to specific amino acids, so that we can have better absorption. When we have an amino acid kind of there next to it, it's like an escort or a bodyguard for that nutrient to get where it needs to go in the body, if you will.
Yep, well said. A lot of these nutrients, I'm hearing feedback. I wonder if it'll go away on your end. Maybe your speakers are a bit loud.
I'm good on mine. I don't hear anything here.
You don't? Okay. No. Leave us a comment in the YouTube if people hear the feedback at all, if you hear my voice echoing. A lot of people are so deficient in nutrients, even with an organic diet. And that's something that you and I see and measure on the stool test. And then we see and measure that on the organic acids test too. You know, we've got a lot of people that come to us because they've heard us talking about like a ketogenic diet or some other high fat diet, but then we can measure something called steatocrit on the stool test. And so if people want to quantify, well, how am I actually digesting? What can you guys teach me about my nutrients? And my diet's perfect. I'm one of those guys. I want to try to fix everything with diet. Well, we can take a look and see if that's actually working for you. So if we see steatocrit that's high, that's a fecal fat marker. You can look at your stool, of course, but it's better to have a number. And if we see that your fecal fat marker's high, well, we know we've got to give you some good fat digesting enzymes, help out the pancreas, help out the gallbladder. And then also on the organic acids panel, we're going to look at the amino acid markers. So we can see, do you have the raw breakdown materials? Because your proteins, like your animal proteins and pastured animal products, those are all made of amino acids. That's like the breakdown products of those, and that's what fuels your brain chemicals, your neurotransmitters. And so if we see you're super low on amino acids, that's a problem. So we have to fix it. And like you mentioned, why is that happening? Well, it could be infections. Like Robert is, he's left us a comment here. He's talking about that he's had blasto, he's had Klebsiella, he's had Citrobacter. He's resolved a lot of these infections through Dr. J's antimicrobials, which is awesome. I guarantee you were getting robbed for a long time of your 100%. Nutrients.
100%. So the first thing is, right, we have that kind of diet. So think of like your health as like running a business. So every year that you're unhealthy, it's like a business, right, having more expenses than its profit, right, or than its revenue, gross revenue, right? So you're going a little bit more into debt, The difference is you don't go into bankruptcy court, right, and go bankrupt. You have symptoms, and those symptoms eventually may lead into a cluster of diseases or pathology, whether it's diabetes or it's just obesity, or maybe it's cancer or heart disease, or you're just in this in-between where you kind of have chronic fatigue, you don't feel good, you're kind of depressed, and then you're in this in-between where you go to the doctor and they're just like, oh yeah, you're just aging, or here's an antidepressant, or it's all in your head, and then you're stuck with these kind of in-between kind of diagnoses where you don't have a disease, but you sure don't feel good, and you're not getting any answers, right? So that's kind of the big thing that we see. So we're like, all right, so imagine that that's the equivalent of a business $1 million in debt. Well, just because you start having good business practices and start pulling a profit, you got to now make above and beyond that million before you start coming back in the black. So that's where it's really good for some of these supplements to come in, because they can kind of, act like a mini bailout or a mini business loan to kind of bring you back into balance. So things like B vitamins are great because you burn these up when you're stressed. And if you have a lot of dysbiotic bacteria, the good bacteria produce healthy amounts of B vitamins. If you have a lot of bad bacteria, you're not getting the B vitamins, and you're also getting a lot of toxins too, which create leaky gut and create more stress and cause you to burn through B vitamins. It also creates a lot of lactic acid, which eats up a lot of your B vitamins. So B vitamins are a really important first step. And we have B vitamins like B1, which is thiamine, or B2, which is riboflavin, or B3, which is niacin, B6, which is pyridoxal 5-phosphate or pyridoxal hydrochloride, B9, which is folate, B12, which is B12, right? Methylcobalamin, hydroxyl adenosylcobalamin, right? These are important B vitamins, especially if you're a vegetarian. B12 is going to be one of those that you're missing. So any comments, Evan, on the B vitamins and how important they are?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And I'm going to address Robert's question at the same time, answering or adding a comment. He said, can these infections result in high homocysteine levels? The answer is absolutely yes. And there's a journal that I'll send over to Justin so we can put it in the show notes. It was American Family Physician was the literature, but it was an article all about vitamin B12 deficiency. And basically what happens is, whether it's H. pylori or like they even talk about in this article, which is surprising because most conventional medical people, they kind of disregard parasites, but it's talking about the link between parasites and B12 deficiency, and then the link between B12 deficiency and elevated homocysteine levels. So yes, we may give you some type of supplement that's going to have the B12, but like we always talk about, we've got to get to the root cause too. So we've got to fix those infections like I've had. We got to fix those two at the same time while supplementing. So let me send that to you, Justin, so we can share it with the listeners.
That sounds great. So I think B vitamins are really important. Just number one, because of the stress component. Number two, because of the gut bacteria component. And then number three, just to kind of, most people are still stressed, so they need those B vitamins just to help kind of break even every day. So that's that first component. Next, let's talk about minerals. So one of the first important minerals is going to be magnesium, because it's a mineral that has over 100 or 1,000 roles, 1,000 enzymatic roles in the body, right? It has a major effect on dealing with enzymes. So with Krebs cycle, with energy, with blood pressure, with mood, with sleep, with relaxation, with stress, lots of different roles in the body. And it's one of those that are just incredibly deficient in our food supply. There's lots of studies on magnesium deficiency, and that it's literally prevalent in over 50% of the population. So this is important. And if we're not eating organic, then the magnesium in our food will be lower. So magnesium is one of these things that we want to make sure is in a high quality supplement. I put it in my supplement via magnesium malate. So it's bound to malic acid, which is a Krebs cycle kind of intermediary nutrient. So it's really important for the Krebs cycle. And that way we can at least guarantee a couple 100 milligrams, but because it's chelated, more of it gets into where it needs to go, which is really important. So magnesium is another one of those very important nutrients.
Good. Well said. Yeah. And if you bought magnesium at Walgreens or CVS or Walmart or Target, probably magnesium oxide. We've talked about this before, but it's about a 4% absorption rate. So if you're taking 100 milligrams, you're getting 4% of that. If you're taking 1,000 milligrams, 4% of that. So take a look at your supplement bottle, flip it around, look at the form of magnesium. If it's oxide, you could use it for constipation. That's about the only benefit. But like Justin's talking about, to help fuel the enzymatic processes and help Krebs cycle and promote energy and all of that, it's not going to do anything. You've got to look at the malates. You've got to look at the tarates. You've got the citrates, the chelates. glycinate, the 3-in-8. So there's many good ones out there. And Mercola, and I don't know if he's just saying this like anecdotally or if he's got some literature on it, but Dr. Mercola has recently talked about EMF and how he believes that the magnesium can help mitigate the EMF. And he's recommending like 2 grams a day of different forms of magnesium. It makes sense, but I don't know the mechanism of how that would help.
Interesting. Well, if we look at the big magnesium foods, right? Magnesium is going to be lower in foods, but it's going to be highest in our green vegetables, spinach, Swiss chard, pumpkin seeds, kefirs, things like that, almonds, some legumes, avocado, figs, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate's a really good one. Banana. Again, you just have to be careful because if you're kind of have an autoimmune issue and we're on an autoimmune template to start, well, seeds are out, any dairy's out, legumes out. Some of these, half your foods are gone. So you got to be careful. Like the big things are going to be high quality dark chocolate, lots of good greens. And then if you can do any of these nuts or seeds, like the pumpkin seeds I mentioned, that's a really good place. But if not, that's where leaning on a good supplement is going to be helpful. But the green veggies, I think, will be the key to that. So we just got to keep in mind, there may be some foods that are really good for us from a nutrient profile, but they may have an inflammatory profile that, let's just say, kind of contradicts or kind of the risk outweighs the benefit of getting that nutrient because of the inflammation.
Yeah, I agree. So if you're on an autoimmune protocol, if your digestion's compromised, which it probably is if you're on an autoimmune protocol because you probably had an autoimmune illness, and that's why we're recommending an AIP diet, it sounds like a magnesium supplement will be much more necessary and helpful. We had a question from Linda. She said, should she be concerned if every time she goes to the stool, so every time she poops, there's an oil slick? I don't know if I would say scared, but concerned.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would be scared if there was blood in the stool, like, a decent bit of blood, and it wasn't just from a tiny bit of a hemorrhoid issue. But if I saw blood in the stool, I would be scared for sure. I would definitely get that, some kind of an ulcer or cancer, make sure that's ruled out. But with just the slick in the stool, I would be concerned because you're not digesting your fat, which means vitamin A, D, E, K, your fat soluble nutrients like your long chain fatty acids like EPA or DHA or, coconut, good fats like that. You're not absorbing those, which means you're going to have blood sugar issues and you're going to have malabsorption for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So in that case, Linda, if you've listened to us before, we'll sound like a broken record, but if not, if you're working with Justin or I, what we're going to end up doing with you would be looking at a stool test. We've got to measure that fecal fat, the steatocrit marker. We're going to look for infection. So we're going to look for parasites. We're going to look for yeast. We're going to look for fungus. We're going to look for anything that's going to be stealing your nutrients or messing up that absorption. H. pylori, if that's suppressing the parietal cells that make hydrochloric acid in the gut, now your whole digestive cascade's falling apart. We're going to look at medications. So if you've got a history or you're currently taking some type of acid blocking drug, we've got to factor that in because that's a huge factor for fat digestion too, if you're just suppressing that. So we got to look for those underlying causes. But eventually, yes, we could fix that situation and probably add enzymes back in. Let's address Haley's question too, Justin, because it kind of ties into this. She said that she's heard digestive enzymes can make your pancreas and gallbladder, quote unquote, lazy. What are your thoughts? We know that's not true. With melatonin, yes, you can turn down the production of melatonin if you supplement, but with enzymes, my understanding is we're only feeding the fire. Justin, can you comment?
Well, even with melatonin, I talked to Dr. Ronald Rothenberg about that, and he says as long as the dose is relatively low, that won't happen because it's a positive feedback loop with these things. But when it comes to hydrochloric acid and enzymes, one of the major feedback loops for HCl and enzymes is gastrin, right? And gastrin, when you take supplemental HCl, enzyme levels or gastrin levels don't drop. So it's not like you give testosterone, testicles shrink in size, right? It's not like that. So my bigger concern is that someone's not making enough enzymes because they don't have enough hydrochloric acid in the stomach. And my concern is there's not enough HCl in the stomach because of the sympathetic stress response, right? That fight or flight from food or from emotional stress or physical stress. So we're fixing that stuff upstream, right? eating in a good stress-free environment, not hydrating with food, hydrating before, or after by an hour or two, but after, 15 minutes before. And then we're taking enough hydrochloric acid to lower the acidity so we can activate our own enzymes. But taking some is going to be great, because I'm more concerned about that food sitting in your gut and not being digested and basically rotting and acidifying and putrefying and creating stress by it sitting in your gut. That's my bigger concern.
I agree. So we hit the minerals. You talked about those. You did great. We hit on magnesium, which is going to be probably number one. There's a whole organization dedicated to magnesium deficiencies. If you type in GotMag, I think it's gotmag.org. There's like stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 symptoms. You could even have insane symptoms, big issues, heart arrhythmias, atrial fibrillation, all sorts of other like heart-related issues due to magnesium if you're deficient. So if you've got some heart flutters or some weird symptoms, the cardiologist, they're not going to know you've got a magnesium deficiency, and they're just going to end up putting you on like a beta blocker or some type of heart rhythm drug like they've done to my grandmother, and they're not addressing magnesium. And these drugs they're using are likely going to deplete magnesium even more. So we could get into some really, really big, serious health implications if we don't address something that simple as magnesium.
Oh, 100%. So again, big sources of magnesium. In my line, I have one called Magnesium Supreme. That's a magnesium malate, dimalates, or dimalic acid. So that helps in the Krebs cycle. It helps with energy, but it also has the relaxation effect. So that's one of the ones I formulated. I still even like a little bit of magnesium citrate at night. I think is great. It may not be the best to absorb. It's cheaper, but it's still good. So I like my Magnesium Supreme. And then we use the malate, magnesium malate, in all the multis, and the multi-nutrient supreme, and the multi-support pack. So that's kind of what we have. I like those. I use those daily. I think they're great. And then for kids that maybe have serious gut issues, you may do like a magnesium 3 and 8 kind of gel to help, or a magnesium chloride kind of Epsom salt bath too.
Nice. And with the anxiety, like PTSD, traumas, phobias, the supplement in my line is called Calm Clarity. And I've used that one with great success with people, especially veterans who come back from war and they've just got a lot of emotional trauma, or women who've been through some type of abuse. The 3 and 8 crosses the blood-brain barrier. So that's another form of magnesium, and not any one form is perfect, but you can use a combination of these. So like Justin mentioned, you want to cycle them. Maybe you've got some malate here, you've got some citrate here. You can add different forms in.
Yeah, and then we'll put show notes and links to some of these things. So if you guys want to support the show, we always appreciate that. We're just trying to get you the best information possible. Now, I talked about the magnesium foods. Now, some of the B vitamin foods, okay, again, you're going to have, like, if you go online and look, you're going to see the fortified ones, which are going to be cereals and orange juices, which is basically crappy B vitamins. The worst quality. So do not count on any of the B vitamins from those foods. And number one, you shouldn't be eating those foods anyway, because they're very high in sugar with the orange juices, and the grains are going to be obviously the gluten thing, which is going to be inflammatory as well. So cut those out, nix those out, but you're going to do really good with fish, with vegetables, with fruits, with meats, with leafy greens, egg yolks. So a lot of the paleo versions of those are going to have super, super high amount of B vitamins, which is great.
Yeah, like Pop-Tarts. It's like fortified with 12 vitamins and minerals. It's like, oh yeah, let's just eat Pop-Tarts, high fructose corn syrup, and genetically modified glyphosate sprayed wheat flour, and we're going to be just fine. Not true, not true, not true.
Remember, when you take in a lot of sugar and refined carbohydrate, all that refined carbohydrate converts to sugar. And when you look at the Krebs cycle, how that Krebs cycle pumps around, and it goes through all of these kind of, reduction reactions where all these hydrogens kind of accumulate. It takes magnesium to run those cycles. And if it's costing you more magnesium to run the cycle than you're getting in, this is what we call nutrient debt, right? You're not getting as much from it than you are for the cost to run it. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind.
Luckily, the human body is resilient. I mean, if we were like a car, you and I use car analogies, if we were at such a nutrient debt like most people are, the car would be dead. But luckily, our body will still survive. You just won't thrive in these situations. You could have hair issues, skin issues, nail issues, like you said, autoimmune diseases, cancer. You've got bad skin, you've got acne, you've got poor sleep problems, you've got anxiety, depression, you've got chronic fatigue, you've got obesity. I mean, a lot of these diseases that have skyrocketed 10,000% over the last 20 years, there's many, many factors that we can't address in one podcast. But like you mentioned, just the nutrient the nutrient density of the soil has been reduced, which is why, and I didn't tell you this yet, but I expanded my property. I bought the acre next door as well. So I'm going to have, cool. I'm going to have a 1 acre farm, and I'm going to have as much of my food come from that as possible. Not the meats, because there's a couple restrictions on having animals, but my goal is to provide 50% is my goal, 50% of my own food. I've already grown stuff this year. I've had watermelons. Last year I had a bunch of sweet potatoes. I had strawberries. I had broccoli, carrots, all organic, homegrown. There's no more local than you can get than your backyard. So that's
great. And you could even team up with some farmers and make a deal and say, hey, you can use my land and I'll give you half of what's on there.
I know.
But I get to keep the other half, because then you don't have to worry about it at all. And you kind of make this deal. They get free land, but they get half the food. But hey, if there's enough food for you and your family, the rest may go bad anyway. So you may end up giving it away anyway. So that could be a good deal for you.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do some pecan trees. I mean, I've got all sorts of ideas.
Cool. Yeah, very cool, man. I think it's important that people have to understand that your body is like a business. When a business starts having low profits and the revenue starts dropping, the business has to either get incredibly efficient or typically more than likely lays people off. All right. It fires people. Right.
Yep.
And it fires people that are the least essential to driving the profit. Well, the body does the same thing. It just starts allocating resources to other areas. So skin, it's okay. We'll have some irritation. It'll get wrinkly and creepy. It's okay. No problem. Fingernails, weaker, more brittle. Hormones will be a little bit lower. That means you'll have a lot of cycles, symptoms with your cycle. You'll have lower libido. You won't be able to recover from strenuous workouts. You won't be able to put on muscle. That's okay. No big deal. And we won't put out inflammation as much. So you'll be a little bit more achy. You'll be a little bit more prone to osteopenia or osteoporosis. That's how the body thinks. That's how it allocates, because it's all about survival. We are really about surviving. So those nutrients help run those systems. We really want to make sure that we have enough nutrients to run the system, because a lot of people, they're focused on calories. And if you're eating real whole foods, those calories will have nutrition. But today, it's possible with the whole Pop-Tart analogy or the junk food analogy, you can get a whole bunch of calories and not a lot of nutrition on the flip side. So you got to keep that in mind.
Agreed. You want to hit a couple more questions, or should we try to move the conversation into some more nutrients? I've had vitamin C just echoing in my brain that I have to just talk about vitamin C.
Let's hit that. I want to hit one last thing on magnesium, and we can tie it to vitamin C. Is a lot of the medications that are out there will actually create nutrient deficiencies, and one of the biggest ones are the blood pressure medications, the water pills, the hydrochlorothiazide, the lisinopril, the ACE inhibitors, right, or the beta blockers. These will actually create magnesium deficiency, which magnesium is really important for regulating blood pressure. So that actually can create more blood pressure, which creates more dependency on these medications. So you can see that vicious cycle. So keep in mind the nutrient deficiency aspect with these drugs. Same thing with birth control pills and B vitamins as well, and magnesium. So those are a couple of common medications. And then the granddaddy of them all is going to be the acid blockers. That will affect nutrients in many directions: B vitamins, minerals, etc.
Yep, the Omni. Is it Omni with an N or is it M? Omeprazole?
Omeprazole. O-M-N-E and then Prazole. P-R-A-Z-O-L-E.
So it's M-N-E. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
exactly. Or Prilosec, that's the trade name of it. That's the Omeprazole, the generic. So these are the medications. These are the family of meds we got to be careful of. So kind of tagging into your vitamin C, I'll let you take the ball with that, Evan.
Yeah, well, I just want to one more comment on the Prilosec. Yeah. The thing that's scary is these acid blockers used to be prescription, and now they're over the counter. So people just go to Target and they just go buy a 48 pack of these, 6 months supply, and they throw that giant value pack, 20% more pills into their shopping cart, and they just go home. Oh yeah, Prilosec. It's like, good God.
It's really interesting because you get all these people that say, oh, you have to be such a super smart medical doctor to prescribe these drugs. They're so dangerous. You need to have a medical doctor kind of looking over you. And of course that is true in a lot of cases. Yet they contradict themselves, because then these drugs 7 years later, when the patent goes out and once they go generic and there's no money behind them, they go over the counter.
Oh my God.
Look at ibuprofen, right? It kills 20,000 people a year, and now it's over the counter. It's okay.
Oh, it's insane, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of talk on both sides of their mouths, and, we point it out. So in general, the medications that you're going to see that are going to be out there are primarily going to be the patented ones. Once that 7-year patent's up, or if they can't create a mini-me version of it, then it's over the counter and anyone can buy it. It's up for grabs now.
Fortunately, beta blockers and antidepressants are still prescription only, so that's good. We're saving a lot of issues with that. But yeah, let me get back on subject. Vitamin C is huge. It's going to be stored in the adrenal glands typically. So Justin and I are going to measure your nutritional markers when we run organic acids testing on you. We're going to look at a lot of nutrients. 9 times out of 10, vitamin C shows up low because people burn through it like jet fuel, just like the B vitamins that Justin mentioned about stress. Same thing with vitamin C. There's a reference range. Most people aren't even on the map. I'm seeing people at like a point level, like a decimal point level, when they should be hundreds of times higher. So I'm typically going to be using about 2,000 milligrams. And I've had people say, oh, Evan, I've taken vitamin C for years. They still show up low because they were using some garbage they got at like a health food store. Even though it's a health food store, it could still have inferior quality, or it's a consumer grade product. They bought at Whole Foods or Amazon or somewhere else, and they're not using professional grade, or they're just using ascorbic acid only, which is decent. But to really boost up the levels, you've got to have the antioxidants with it, the quercetins, the rutin, the bioflavonoids.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got to have the mixed ascorbates too. You've got the magnesium ascorbates, the calcium ascorbates, the sodium ascorbates. If you just do like the, emergency, that garbage they sell at the checkout line at Walgreens or other places where it's, not only is it just straight ascorbic acid, it's got fructose in there too, which is going to destroy blood sugar. That's not going to do anything. You could buy a year's supply of that and not move the needle.
100%, man. So vitamin C is really important. I'd also say selenium is one of these things that are very important as well, because it's important for thyroid conversion. It's important for liver detoxification. It's important precursor for glutathione, right? And we like to give that in either like a selenium glycinate or a selenomethionine, kind of bound to one of these sulfur amino acids.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What do you say to all the people? Oh, Justin, I don't need selenium. I eat 3 Brazil nuts per day.
Well, I mean, I think that's a really good source of selenium. The problem is the amount of selenium in those Brazil nuts can vary tenfold. So you could either be getting 50 micrograms or 500 micrograms. So the problem is you just don't know how much you're getting in each of them. So I think it's good if you want to do a Brazil nut or 2 a day, just make sure that the malt that you're taking guarantees you at least 200 micrograms of selenium per day. And I think you're in a really, really good place.
Yeah, and we talked about the absorption issue. So if somebody's got gut bugs, it doesn't matter if you eat the Brazil nuts. You could probably eat a whole bag and not boost up selenium if you're deficient and you've got things stealing your nutrients or compromising your digestive quality.
Exactly. And it's just good to have that insurance policy with selenium. It's going to be hard to overdose with it if you're in that 200 to 400 microgram range and you're using a good quality like selenomethionine. You're going to be in really good shape. And again, just kind of tag teaming. We got a lot of people talking about hormone stuff. Selenium is really important for hormones, especially testosterone. And then we even have zinc, right? Whether it's zinc aspartate or zinc methionine or zinc's really important. The zinc fingers have a lot to do with the genetics, like the DNA, the epigenetics. So having enough zinc's really important to activating, having good effects on our epigenome. Zinc's really important for making hydrochloric acid. It's a really good building block for our sex hormones as well. So gotta love zinc. And when you're stressed and you have low hydrochloric acid levels, zinc can go low. And you can do a zinc tally test where we do some zinc chloride, or is it chloride or sulfate? I always get confused.
I think they use sulfate for that.
Yeah, so zinc sulfate, we can do a liquid zinc sulfate test. The more metallic-y tasting it is, the better your zinc is. The better or the more neutral it tastes, the lower your zinc is. That's a good little kind of rule of thumb test.
Yeah, so if people heard that, they're like, what the hell is he talking about? So basically, Justin and I can send a high-quality liquid zinc sulfate, and based on the status of your zinc, that will change the flavor of the zinc. When I took this test a few years ago, I think they say hold it in your mouth for up to 30 seconds. So you put the little bit of zinc in your mouth, you kind of gently swish it around. I swallowed, I tasted nothing. That was when I had all those infections. I literally tasted nothing. It tasted like water. My zinc was trashed. And then as you improve infections, you get your digestion better, you're supplementing with the right type of zinc. All of a sudden you could put the zinc in your mouth and then it almost tastes like you're licking a piece of metal, like right away. That's the goal. But what would you say, Justin? 95% of people, they're not going to taste the metal right away, which means they're super deficient.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are going to be deficient if they have gut issues or stress issues or malabsorption, those kind of things for sure. So that's a really important one to look at. So we hit the vitamin C, we hit magnesium, we hit selenium, we hit zinc.
I'd say omegas and vitamin D would be two others we have to mention.
Yeah, I think omega-3 is really important, which is the typical omega-3 fatty acids. There's ALA, alpha linolenic acid. That's the omega-3 in flaxseed oil. We have EPA, which is the 20-chain carbon, which is eicosapentaenoic acid. That's EPA. And then we have DHEA, docosahexaenoic acid, which is a 22 carbon. And these are the 20 and 22. The EPA and the DHEA are the fats found in fish oil. These are the really important ones. These have all of the anti-inflammatory action. They help block this prostaglandin E2 pathway, which gets inflammation jacked up. They also are a really good building block for the brain and the neurological system. And the ALA, or the alpha linolenic acid from the flax and the vegetables, that actually has to get converted via this enzyme. I think it's delta 5 desaturase, and that enzyme converts the 18 carbon to the 20 carbon, and things like insulin resistance and inflammation and stress can affect that conversion and decrease the function by 80 to 90%. So you're not getting those really biologically active omega-3 fatty acids when you're doing a lot of the plant-based omega-3s because of those mechanisms I mentioned. So getting the really good omega-3s from the fish is going to be the best way. Plus, the fish actually bioaccumulate how the plants get it, which will typically is the algae, right? A lot of the good vegetable omega-3 supplements, vegetarian ones, are going to be algae-based. Well, the fish concentrate the algae. It's kind of like the grass-fed cows concentrate the grass. So you're kind of getting that bioaccumulation in a more concentrated form when you're doing some of these really good fish oils.
Well said. Yeah, pastured meats too. You will get some fatty acids. So your bisons, your elk, which are my two favorites, your grass-fed beef, pastured pork. I would assume you'd get some from pork.
Yeah, more than likely you're going to get some from any of the animal products. The healthier they are, the more pastured the more biologically appropriate their diet is, the better chance that you're going to get more of these omega-3 fatty acids than the more inflammatory omega-6. But again, arachidonic acid is a really important building block, which is an omega-6 fatty acid, but that's going to be a really good fat too. So you don't want to say, oh, all omega-6 is bad. It's just going to really be a lot more of the omega-6 that are going to be driven from vegetable oils, like refined vegetable oils, right? Yeah. The good vegetable oils are going to be your olive oil, which is a oleic acid, which is really an omega-9. Your short chain fatty acids are going to come from more your butters and ghee, which that's going to be more animal based. MCT oil, or your capric, caprylic, lauric acid, these C6, C8, C10, C12 fatty acid, these are going to be in the coconut. That's great. So those would be some of the really good ones to start with. All avocado oils, another really good neutral one as well.
Yeah, I just want to point out the fact that we're hitting a lot of really good foundational nutrients, but we could do entire episodes just on magnesium, just on vitamin C, just on B.
We had that on magnesium. I know that.
I think we did, yeah. So if we feel like we're glossing over some deep aspects, then that's okay. The vitamin D, that's huge. It's really a hormone called a vitamin, but vitamin D is important. We like to see your levels at preferably 60 or above. I'd say 9 out of every 10 people are going to be deficient in magnesium. As you get older, you can't convert sunlight into usable vitamin D as much. So even if you're getting plenty of sun exposure, which I've talked with people who garden for 6 hours a day, they're still deficient in vitamin D. And so unless you're like Dr. Mercola, where he said he hadn't supplemented in 7 years, something like that, 5, 6, 7 years. He lives at a very south latitude in Florida. He's out on the beach hours, 3 hours a day with so much skin exposed, and he keeps his levels at about 60. So like, unless you've got that amount of time and lifestyle to dedicate to sun, it's going to be really tough to keep it at an adequate level.
I 100% agree. So vitamin D is really important. We try to do it with actual sun exposure. Don't burn, kind of get your minimal erythemal dose, MED, if you will, and supplement the rest. If you just do a really good 25 hydroxy vitamin or a regular vitamin D3, mine's Emulsi D Supreme, and it's got the MCT oil and the vitamin D3 D3 in there, which is a really good form. Again, you can also add some K2 in it. My biggest issue is you don't get enough vitamin D with the K2 ones, but just make sure you're getting some really good K2 in your foods, which fermented foods are going to have a lot of K2. Healthy gut bacteria will make some K2. And then also healthy grass-fed butter or ghee are going to be other excellent sources of vitamin K2 as well.
So Designs has one that's got 5,000 IU of D plus K1 and K2. I can't remember the name, but it's a pretty good one, and I've used it before. I think it's going to be called this. I think it's Supreme, is what it is. D Supreme.
Yeah, the problem is the vitamin D levels in it are very, very low. That's the only issue.
I think it's a 5,000. What are you talking about using? Are you talking about using like an 8 or a 10,000, or is 5,000 good in your eyes?
It just depends. Like I like doing the liquid vitamin D just because if I need to use it therapeutically, like someone's sick, right? I may do 100,000 IUs, and that ends up being like 20 or 30 pills. It becomes doing too hard. So it's easier to just take like 30 or 40 drops, put it in your smoothie, and you don't even know you had it. So I go more with the liquid. But again, your great vitamin K sources are going to be your green leafies, fermented foods like natto, of course, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, broccoli, fermented dairy, prunes, high quality grass-fed butter or ghee. So really, you can get a lot of those. Make sure you're getting a lot of good nutrients from those foods and make sure they're organic, and that'll help significantly. So if you're doing a vitamin D, you really want to make sure that K2's there, and just make sure those foods are really good in your diet. And a lot of good multis may have a little bit of K2 in there too. Good.
Well said. Shall we look at a couple questions here?
Yeah, let's hit them.
Okay, so we had a question about Mercola's Complete Probiotic. It's probably decent. Justin and I use professional grade. So if there's a consumer grade product out there, we're always going to say ours is better because we've got healthcare manufacturers that make our products. There's very, very, very stringent restrictions and testing and manufacturing processes that we use. And so we're always going to push you towards our probiotics instead, which
his are probably good though.
Yeah, I'm sure they're good. I mean, Mercola's, he's very detail oriented. So I'm sure his are good, but we're biased. So we're going to want you to buy ours. So you could check out justinhealth.com. Check out his line. He's got several in the gut support section. And I've got a few formulas too that I've got on my site, evanbrand.com. You can check out those.
Perfect.
All right, let's keep going. What else we've got here? Robert, he asked, what foods and supplements can he take to speed up restoring low secretory IgA? What do you think? I think a lot of the gut supports, like the leaky gut formulas, your slippery elm, your marshmallow roots, chamomile flowers, anything that's going to kind of fix a leaky gut situation, maybe some mushrooms to support the IgA for the immune system.
Yeah, I think making sure the infections are gone. Number one, making sure the diet's good, making sure you're breaking down the foods that you're eating. Number three, once the infection's gone, adding in a lot of the healing nutrients. So my line, we use one called GI Restore, which has a lot of those same nutrients. It's got the glutamine, it's got the slippery elm, the aloe, the DGL, a lot of those healing, soothing nutrients. Getting the probiotics up is going to be really helpful. The lactobacillus, the bifidobacter strands, various strands there. Also, very high amounts of Saccharomyces boulardii is proven to help improve IgA levels. So those are really good things that you can add in there. And then just making sure the adrenals are supported, because healthy cortisol levels have an impact on your immune system, which has an impact on your IgA, because your IgA is that mucosal, that first line defense for your immune system.
Yeah, so chronic stress too, right? If you're taking all the supplements in the world, but you have a terrible boss and you hate your life, you've got to address that chronic stress component, because that's going to be the number one cause. It's going to drive down the secretory IgA.
100%.
There was another question here. There was a supplement a person had that had a tiny bit of soy lecithin in it. Should they be concerned? What's your take?
I wouldn't worry about soy lecithin. It's tough. Soy lecithin is more of an emulsifier. It's more to help with the digestion and the mixing of that product. There's typically not going to be soy protein in that. The soy protein is really what causes the problems. Lecithin is more of an emulsifier. So as long as it's a good quality product, and I'm okay with there being a little bit of soy lecithin in there.
Yeah, and I've got a couple formulas that have it in there. I've had people say, oh my God, I'm allergic to soy. They're fine. They have no issue. That's not actually, it's such an extracted form that it's not like you're eating soy. You're not eating soybean.
Right. And then in my line, I think I may have just a few that have soy lecithin in there, but we were able to make sure that it's guaranteed that it's non-GMO soy. So you really want to make sure it's at least non-GMO soy lecithin. And as long as that's there, I'm okay with it.
It's going to be a tiny amount. When you look at a formula, we're talking in the other ingredients. It's not an active ingredient, so it could be 1% of the formula, which is not going to affect you.
Even less, single digit fraction of percents for sure.
Yep. Good. What else we've got here? If you feel like hitting this one, we can, or we could save it for another day. Symptoms of chronic intestinal infections. I think we hit on that already with the hair, the skin, the nails, the acne, depression, anxiety, fatigue.
Yeah. All your common symptoms, right? Your intestinal symptoms: bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, bloating, acid reflux, and then your extra intestinal, which are all the mood based and energy based: fatigue, mood, joint pain, depression, anxiety, those kind of things, sleep,
autoimmunity,
PMS, hormone stuff, autoimmunity. So yeah, and we've done a whole podcast on that. So just Google digestion or parasites or leaky gut, and you'll get a whole bunch of podcasts and videos on that topic.
Cool. Robert said he loved our podcast on histamine, and it hit home. Prior to having infections, no foods were a problem. Post-infection, fermented foods wreaked havoc on him. So thanks for the podcast. Thanks for the feedback, Robert. We love to hear that. The histamine podcast was a killer one.
I look forward to chatting with you soon, Robert. I know you've been doing good and working on yourself there with some of those good information we're putting in the podcast. But if you need more support, let us know and get retested. Make sure we get to the root cause, because if those issues are still there with the post-histamine stuff, there may be some additional critters hanging around.
Yep, I agree. Another question about chronic dry eyes. How often have you seen this with your patients? I'm working on healing the gut. Do you think there could be other root causes to dry eyes? Justin, what's your take?
Yeah, chronically low cortisol. You'll see dry eyes. Typically get your diet stabled. Once your diet's stable, kind of at a lower carbohydrate kind of diet, if those dry eyes are still there, gently taper off that carbohydrate every couple of days, 10, 15 grams of carbs primarily at night. Do the safe starchy versions, squash, sweet potatoes, plantains, those kind of things. And you may see those dry eyes start to go away. Can even try a tablespoon of coconut oil and a teaspoon of honey right before bed as well. That may help.
Cool. Let's see what else we've got. Can I reinfect myself with H. pylori with makeup, like lipsticks that I've used when I had H. pylori? I have no idea what the lifespan of that is on a product.
It's possible. I mean, I would just look at the lipstick stuff, maybe just get a razor blade and just cut that end off there. I think you'd probably be okay with that. Typically, as you knock out the infection, you'd still be using it. So eventually you'd wear off that. But I think if you want to be on the safe side, I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Even more important, things that you can't quite excise as easy, like partners, right? Spouses, ideally getting them at least treated semi meaning maybe we only use one supplement just because the compliance is so important. I would really be more imperative on the spouses and the partners.
I agree. Yeah, partner's probably a much bigger issue, much bigger carrier and reinfection source than your makeup. But lipstick, I don't know of any high quality lipstick. Maybe they're out there, but I would just throw that stuff away and maybe just discontinue using lipstick too. I doubt you're missing out on much. And, there's parabens and all sorts of other stuff that's typically
and they have some really good things out in the market now that do a lot of like food-based ones where they're extracting cherries and all these different food-based ones, and it kind of produces that fruit-based stain that kind of gives you a similar look, but it's using nutrition and foods versus some of these synthetic things.
Okay. So maybe you stick with the lipstick then.
Yeah.
All right, James. He had oversympathetic. Let's see. Having oversympathetic with sexual activity, does blood pressure, Norvasc affect ED issues? That's it's kind of like I don't even fully understand what he's saying because it's kind of like a piece together thing. Are you understanding what he's asking?
Yeah, I think what he's saying is, does this medication have a potential side effect of erectile dysfunction? I would just go to rxlist.com and put that medication in there and then look at that long list of side effects. I can do it for him right here.
Yeah.
While we continue with the conversation. What was the medication called again?
It's Norvasc, Norvasc.
Okay, cool. I'll pull it up here in a second.
Okay, and he's
Norvasc.
Norvasc is in Charlie.
Norvasc, got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then he's saying even with Viagra, it doesn't correct the lack of sensitivity. So yeah, I mean, here's my easy, quick answer. If you didn't have those symptoms before, and now you're on this drug and those symptoms are happening, how could that not be a factor?
Yeah, this is an amlodipine, which is basically a calcium channel blocker. Okay. which is a calcium channel blocker, which again, magnesium kind of does the same thing, FYI. And if we look at the side effects, feeling like you may pass out, swelling in your hands, feet, ankles, pounding heartbeats, or fluttering in your chest pain, heavy pain, spreading arms and shoulders, nausea, general ill, and there's more side effects as well. So
you sound like a commercial all of a sudden.
I know, right? Let me see here. Dizziness, drowsiness, tired, stomach pain.
And what is this for? What is that? That's for blood pressure, is that right?
Yeah, this is a blood pressure medication. But I think what you said is the best advice. If that wasn't there before, and then you started taking the medication and it started happening, as long as your blood pressure is not too bad and you could taper down or you could come off it with your doctor's approval, I would have no problem doing that and seeing if those symptoms improve. Then because in the end, if it's not a side effect on rxlist.com, but you take the meds out and it gets better, does it really matter that they say it is? We know clinically it is, right?
Yep. And
absolutely.
And there's so many ways. Didn't we do a whole blood pressure podcast?
Don't come off. If your blood pressure is 160, 170, and you're on blood pressure medications because it'll go that high afterwards, don't come off it. You really want to make sure that if you're on a medication and you want to try it and see if there's an issue, one, fix the root causes, but two, talk to the medical doctor that prescribed it and make sure they're in concurrence, in agreement with you on the taper that you're going to do. Make sure that you're all on the same page.
Yeah, some people, they go to the other end of the spectrum where they're so anti-pharmaceutical that I'm getting off of this. That's bad. That's like stroke territory. So don't do that.
You got to be careful. Some people, if you're like a 130 or 140 over like 80 or 90, not too bad. You could probably come off it as long as you're fixing other root issues, but just have a blood pressure cuff by your bed, test it in the morning, see where you're at. Just, you want to do it responsibly if you do it, and you want to get the prescribing doctor on the same page as you. You don't want to go rogue.
Yep. Well said.
Excellent. Any other questions you want to hit up?
Let's see what else
I got one here. I got one on Facebook here from Michelle or from Mitchell. Can L-tyrosine for dopamine support be too stimulating? How much should be taken to minimize side effects? Yeah, it can be for some people. Tyrosine can kind of provide precursor support to dopamine, which then above that can go to adrenaline. So it can be. I think starting at 500 milligrams and working up to maybe potentially 3 to even 6 grams a day is okay, but start low and slow. And if you know that it is stimulating, use it more in that first half of the day and not the last half of the day.
Yep, that's a simple fix. Good answer. Nora had a follow-up here. Thanks for answering the question. So can I successfully eradicate H. pylori and other pathogens if I live with people who have it? Do they have to do treatment in parallel with me? Well, if you're sexually active with people, you're kissing, or simple enough, even just sharing straws, sharing cups, drinking after each other, that's enough to infect them. So even if it's not a partner, but it's someone, oh, hey, let me have a drink of that. That's enough to still pass H. pylori. Justin and I have seen it hundreds of times.
Yeah. So, now, the stronger your immune system is, it becomes less of an issue. So like with Evan and myself, we have stronger immune systems because we worked on that. We may be less prone because our IgA levels are up high enough where if a tiny bit of that came into our system, our IgA would squash it. But if your IgA is lower and you got more of the stress going on and you have poor hydrochloric acid levels, then for sure that could happen.
Yeah. And I had low IgA too. So that's something that you'd want to get measured, Nora, and check with the stool testing and look for your IgA, figure out what your first line of defense is looking like. If it's low and weakened, or you've just got a lot of chronic stress, then you're going to be more susceptible to pick it up. But to answer the question, could you eradicate it if you live with other people? Yeah, you could, but there's got to be a lot of things in your favor, and you're not sharing cups or drinking from those people or kissing them, etc. Anthony, there's one question about from Anthony. Let's see. He said, it's been over 5 years with gut issues, irregular stools, many doctor visits. He found out that he had a whey and a casein allergy. Where should you start to get rear help? Oh, wow. That's a hard one to answer. Right here, Justin or myself, justinhealth.com, evanbrand.com. We've dealt with people who've already been to many doctors. It's such a common story. We always ask the question, hey, kind of give us your history. What's been your experience with other practitioners? What have you tried that's helped? What have you tried that hasn't helped? I'd say 90% of people we talk with, they've already been to either a gastro doctor or some other type of doc for their gut issues, and they've had no success and only prescription drugs like I got recommended to myself, antispasmodics, anti-acid drugs. If you've got irregular bowels, man, you've got infections. I could put money on it.
And I'm a huge believer, and I want every patient to have at least gotten a conventional medical workup before they come see functional docs or functional practitioners like ourselves, just to rule out big picture pathology stuff. And, it just makes it so we at least know that the big glaring stuff is at least been looked at and addressed and assessed. So then now we're looking more at functional imbalances, which is really what functional medicine is treating. It's not medicine from a conventional disease-based medicine. It's medicine from a nutritional kind of support perspective, working on supporting systems, not treating symptoms and disease.
Yeah, we'll take one more question here from Charletto. How do you feel about Now Foods brand supplements? My health coach is using them on me. I think Now Foods is okay. It's, once again, a consumer grade product, so it is going to be likely less high quality. I have seen some fillers in some of their products. I have seen them use some inferior forms of certain nutrients. However, they've also got a lot of really good products too, where they're stepping up their game and they're using the methylated Bs and the higher qualities with the omegas. So,
and plus, and people don't know, but now has another line that's a higher up line. It's called Protocols for Life. That's their higher grade line. So if you like Now, look at Protocols for Life.
Is protocol, would that have to be through practitioner, or is that
typically
consumer?
It's a practitioner one, but it's a little bit higher grade, but it's made by the same company. It's their one step up.
But overall, what's your take on Now?
I mean, I think they're okay for certain things, so as a kind of a initial kind of getting your foot in the door kind of thing, I think it's okay. But of course, we have our bias because we're trying to get the highest quality in everything. And part of that is because when we actually work with patients face to face, it's not like they go online, buy something, and we never see them again. We're working with them face to face. So we have to know that what we're recommending is the best because we need to seek the clinical outcome. So we have to know that. So it's a little bit different for us because we got to go all out and make sure that nothing is held back.
Right. So when you've got these other companies and people out there promoting stuff, they're not working with people one-on-one. So it comes directly back on Justin or directly back on me if we give them our product and it doesn't work. That's not very sustainable for us. So that's why it's much, much better, for us. That's why we have access for people that don't work with us. We allow other people outside to access our products because they've been tried and true and tested. And if they didn't work with people, we wouldn't carry them.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work too, then it allows us to say, okay, there's not some crappy filler or there's some sub nutrient in there. Let's look a little bit deeper. So it gives us the confidence that we just need to look deeper now. So it's good on both sides.
And just a firsthand experience with Now Foods and secondhand, I guess, through clients, I've had people taking like their super enzymes, for example, and I get their digestive health markers investigated on the urine and stool test, and it looks terrible. Their digestion's not working at all, even with the high dose of their enzymes. So does that mean the quality's bad? Does that mean they're not dosing it properly? Maybe they're not consistent as much? I don't know, probably a combination of factors, but I always switch people over to my professional enzymes and then I retest and then all of a sudden it's fixed. Is it compliance? Is it quality? Probably both.
Yeah. And, everyone's got their bias and we kind of state our bias there. We're trying to be super transparent. But yeah, I think there are 95% of companies that are out there are bad, but I think Now would be in that, I would say they're in that 5% at least that are better for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's it for questions. Anything else you want to hit before we wrap it up? I think we did pretty good today.
Yeah, I think James who is it? Someone came out there. Was it James? Yeah, James asked about Tom Brady. Again, love Tom Brady. Huge Patriots fan. Again, Tom Brady does lots of things. I would say go back and check out the podcast I did on him a year and a half ago for more specifics, but he does use some green stuff. He does kind of promote like a paleo alkaline diet. A lot of people have really, let's just say Tom Brady had like a vegan cook. So because he had a vegan cook, Tom Brady was now on a vegan diet. No, he eats 20% meat. That's far from vegan. Okay. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. A lot of misnomers about Tom, and he has a lot of different training modalities too, that I'm hoping I would love to get Tom Brady's coach or strength coach on there.
Or just get Tom Brady and the coach on a 3-way podcast.
I would love that, man. I would love to hang out with Tom and get some secrets down. That'd be awesome. I think he may need to wait till he retires to really unveil some of these stuff, but we'll see.
That's true. Well, reach out. I'm sure there's a media/press person and tell them, look, we've got insanely popular health podcast. We'd like to interview Tom and his coach, but yeah, they'd probably be like, no way, dude, we're not giving you the secret sauce. Hold on.
I know exactly. So I know Alex Guerreras is his coach that does a lot of the stuff. So I'd be really, really interested to get Alex on a podcast. That'd be freaking awesome.
Never hurts to ask.
No, absolutely, man.
Well, yeah, let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah. We had a great call today. I'm late for my next patient here, but dropping knowledge bombs all day, man. Really enjoying this call with you. Anything else you want to add or say?
Well, I think we mentioned it all. If people want to work with us, we work with people around the world. So Skype and phone consultations is what we do. And all the lab testing except for blood you do at your house. So if you want to get help, get to the root cause, reach out, justinhealth.com or Google Dr. Justin Marchegiani or myself, evanbrand.com, or type in Evan Brand. Find us, subscribe. And if you have more questions, concerns, get a hold of us. That's what we're here for. We love helping people. That's what makes us thrive. So we want to help you thrive too. So have a great day.
And leave some comments below. If you like this podcast, tell us what you like. If you don't like stuff, tell us what you don't like, and tell us what you want us to talk about next time. And give us a thumbs up, give us a share. We really appreciate it, guys. And you all have an awesome day. Take care, y'all.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.